So maybe we can start by telling me, just generally why you're here today.
Okay, I'm here today because I've been a social activist all my life, all my adult life. I've recognized the importance that movements like this can make. I saw it when I was growing up with the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement of my generation, and the women's movement and the lesbian and gay movements that followed. That when people do come together, from whatever diverse spectrum, position on the political spectrum you're coming from, that we are in a much stronger position to affect change. And I think we've reached a point in our economic system where it's proving to be incapable of meeting the needs of the people in this country and globally. That when everything that's being made is being made for the profit of a few people and not for the needs of the majority. When technology is introduced to be able to expand that production globally, and it impacts everyone's wages, including the workers here at home that are going down. And when young people, the official statistic is 81 million people globally between the age of 30 and I think it's 18 are unemployed. That's a phenomenal number that is really evidence that this system of capitalism cannot absorb the new generation of workers.
So you think the economic system of the United States should change?
I think the economic system of the United States has to change. I think if it doesn't, we are facing both an economic and cultural and environmental catastrophe unlike anything we could imagine. I just read today, we're in Pennsylvania, and our governor, people fondly refer to him as Tom Corporate, talks about making Pennsylvania the Texas of the East. Rick Perry, who would like to be president, represents a current of thought coming from the oil companies that would like to do away with environmental protection laws altogether. The water, clean air be damned. He's talking about opening up national forest land for drilling. And we're already seeing the impact that's having on our streams and our air and our water and people's health. And if that's what they want to spread around the world, it's got to be stopped. But we see an economy that seems to only be able to produce for war, that's more driven to occupy other countries in order to, spread their markets than to be able to provide housing for its people at home.
So if you wanted to say you want to change the economic system, what would you like that system to change to?
It has to be a system based on human needs. It has to be a system that provides a future for its youth. In my generation, you kind of assume you would go to school, high school, maybe you got to go to college, you'd be able to get a job, you'd be able to have a family, to have a home, to travel, to have a retirement you can rely on. And it's no longer capable. You have to look for a system that's based on human needs that could provide that. I'm a socialist myself. I've had the opportunity to see socialism, firsthand in Cuba and Venezuela, where people are moving in that direction. And I've been able to see the difference it can make in people's lives, particularly for young people, where all of a sudden their dream of an education isn't just a dream. It's a guaranteed possibility because education is free through the college level. Where healthcare isn't just a privilege for those people who can afford it. It's guaranteed for every person in that society, and it's free. So the collective wealth that those societies produce isn't used to go line the pockets of Koch brother or the head of Wells Fargo or the head of ExxonMobil. It comes back to the workers who made that wealth in the form of those social programs. Education. Here we're busy closing down schools, trying to privatize those schools, sending our youth, instead of offering the opportunity in education, we're trying to figure out ways of pushing them into prisons so they can be slave labor for private prisons. If that's the future we have to offer under this system, it's proven bankrupt. It's reached a dead end.
So you saw a better system in Venezuela and Cuba.
I did, yeah. Not perfect, and they would be the first to admit it. But an open system where, we talk about democracy in the U.S. as if it's something everybody is guaranteed and everybody enjoys equally. And that's about the farthest thing from the truth. If you have to be a billionaire in order to get office in the U.S., when you look at our Congress, it's, majority millionaires, if not outright billionaires, or they were funded by billionaires. If it took 200 years for a person of color in this country to become the president, and he's constantly under attack, regardless of what you think about Obama, half the attacks against him are coming from a perspective of racism. You look at the Congress we have, where are the women? There are very few, there are a handful. Where are the indigenous people in that Congress?
So do you believe that there's an inherent discrimination in the American system now?
Yes, it was built on inherent discrimination. You had to be white male person with property to really have full rights, and that's still kind of true in a lot of ways. And
you believe that continues today?
I believe it does continue today. There may be token here, token there, but you look around who's calling the shots. And it's funny, it's like we're sitting in front of City Hall where the mayor happens to be African American. But you talk to the people from the community, and they're pretty sure that the reason he got into office is he got backing from the banks when he was clear that his positions would not be ones that would favor the community. They would be positions that would favor the business interests of the city, including the stop and frisk program, which is targeted, hundreds of people of color, including politicians.
So you feel that the current mayor of Philadelphia was manipulated by these other powers that you just?
I think he allowed himself, but that's really, I don't want to go in that direction because you asked the question about why I think socialism would offer an alternative.
Right.
When I was in Cuba in 1994, it was at a time when they were dealing with a negative impact on their economy from the collapse of Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union. And they, because of the embargo, they had to completely retool their industry once in the early part of their revolution. But rather than some governing body and anonymous saying, well, this is what we're going to do, they went out through a series of what they called people's assemblies. And they met with people in every location where people might congregate, in neighborhood groups, in unions, in women's groups, in universities. They made a direct effort of getting out and listening to people and hearing their ideas about what could be done to deal with the economic crisis that they faced.
So how did
and then they took those ideas and they took them all to for a national assembly and then talked about all the issues. And the irony is some of those issues were that they should institute a wage tax in Cuba. Cuba didn't have a wage tax. But that National Assembly actually voted that down. They said, no, we don't want to go that way. Or that they should charge for sporting events and cultural events, which up to that time had been free. And they said, no, we don't want to do that. What they have done is they've weathered the crisis by providing guaranteed employment. If you lose your job because what you're doing gets cut back or faded out for some reason, you're absorbed into another area of the economy at your guaranteed salary. If we had that here in the U.S., nobody would have to be out here.
So how do they do it in Cuba? In other words, I've never been to Cuba.
Okay,
if let's say I'm a bricklayer and I lose my job. Okay. So then what is the process? Where do I go to do
this?
If the
need is for, say, support in the agricultural field, and Cuba is still very much an agricultural economy, they would be able to use your work in agriculture, but you would be paid what you were paid as a bricklayer. You would not lose income.
Right, but how do I get that job on the farm, so to speak?
It's organized through agricultural cooperatives that work with the state, that work with the local communities in those agricultural areas.
So you go to like a government office or something, and
The government or the local economies would say, we need so many workers for this. They would work through whatever channels are then working with who's laid off. They may need people. Maybe you're a bricklayer in one area and the project you were working on is done. They would find, if a school was being built or housing was being built, they'd find a way of absorbing those skills. And
so there's some sort of central clearinghouse.
There's some sort of central cooperation because, again, it's a society that's based on the needs of the people and not one individual businessman, making profit at everybody else's expense.
And that's the type of system you would like to see the United States.
I'd like to see that, and I think we have the means to do that. I think we have the productive capacity to do that. We can produce. The U.S. is one of the most productive systems in the world, but yet we're racked with economic crisis right now, and that's a major contradiction. That you have 30 million people either unemployed or underemployed and willing to work. You have young people by hundreds of thousands coming out of education facilities willing to work, and we can't find jobs for them. And you look around, you go, within a mile of where we are right now, and I guarantee you will find crumbling roads. You will find homeless people. You will find people who are in need of health care. You will find people who are in need of housing. And, why is it that we can't use the resources, the wealth of this country to do something about that?
All right. I appreciate your time. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you.
I'm going to take a few shots of your table here.
Good luck with your lot. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Excuse me.
Oh, the challenge on your cap. It's a running cap.
What?
Is it a running cap?
It's a Lance Armstrong strong quarter. I rode 45 miles a couple of years ago for race for the Lance Armstrong Foundation, which focuses on cancer research. 40